computer. Okay. All right. Hi, Mercedes. Thank you for taking time to talk with me today.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, so we just want to have a quick conversation with you about your experience at Three Sisters, hopefully inform some people who might be thinking about doing the program. So just to get us started, there are so many teacher trainings to choose from in New York City and just in the world. What made you, when you were looking for your program, what made you pick Three Sisters?
Yeah, so when I started my teacher training, I was in a really transitional point, and I was freelancing at the time, so I had time before projects, started back up. So I did a ton of research, and I actually stumbled upon Three Sisters Yoga, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. This seems very community-based, whereas other programs tended to focus on more like the structure of yoga itself. Like, I felt like you guys did a fantastic job just creating a community, and it made me feel that you cared about the students as like individuals and wanted us to show growth within ourselves versus just like, okay, this is how you teach yoga,
Right.
and XYZ. And I also loved the bit where you guys explain on your website why you chose Three Sisters, like I think it's like corn, beans, and one other thing.
And
squash.
Yeah.
And I'm like such a nature gal, like such a farmer at heart. So it's just like, oh my God, this is meant to be. And I, was looking for your next sample class just to like see, and it was that night. And I was like, well, if this isn't like a sign. Yeah. So I remember calling you frantically, being like, is there room still? Like, can I come?
And there was plenty of room, yeah.
Yeah, you were like, I'm on the train right now. Like, I can't talk. But like, yes. You And yeah, from there it was, I, loved it. It was history.
Yeah, awesome. Speaking of the community, we did a talk with Ashley from your class as well. So that was, they're all great, one of many great groups. So you talked a little bit about the personal growth, and I think that's an element of the training. Sometimes people don't know to expect that there is a lot of just sort of getting to know yourself and deepening your own practice in addition to working within the community and learning to teach others. So in terms of what your expectations were coming into it versus how the experience went from you, can you speak to that a little bit, how you felt coming out of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I went into it with having no expectations, which is rare for me.
Yeah.
Because usually I'm like, okay, this is how I want it to go. Like, I was kind of just like, I'm letting go of all expectations I might have. I just kind of want to do this and see where it goes from there. And I think you and Jen did a fantastic job of just like blowing my mind, not only like for my sense of self, because you think like, oh, okay, I'm going to teach people yoga. Like, yes, it's going to be like life altering, but you never really understand how much you have to like look at yourself and try to like, see yourself and look at your shadow and kind of just like do all this inner work before you can kind of like teach others.
Yeah.
And I think you guys did such a beautiful job with that. And I think just creating again like that community. I myself have never really gotten along with women that well, and I know that sounds like very cliche, but I just like could never really connect with girls in that way. And I think I've made so many friends through this experience too, and I think it's just such an awesome thing. Like, we went through the trenches together in the best way. It was really hard work because it was the intensive, but it was a fantastic experience, and I think you guys really like just went above and beyond any expectation I thought I could ever have.
Oh, well, thank you. That's nice to hear. All of it. Yeah, so that's I feel like a good segue into, if somebody was a prospective student, somebody potentially looking at Three Sisters Yoga, what advice would you have for them, or what would you tell them?
I would just tell them to do it. I would just tell them to, like, whatever you think is holding you back, regardless what you're going to do with it. Because I feel like everyone's like, oh, if I'm going to do teacher training, like, I have to teach yoga. And that's not necessarily always the case. A lot of people in our class that I was in, like, I don't think they're teaching, but I think it was just such a beautiful experience to grow as a person, to understand your body more, to kind of facilitate an environment of like learning and understanding not only about yourself but each other, and just really tap to all aspects of yoga. Like yoga is not just the physical practice on the mat, it's kind of everything that goes into it besides going on the mat. And I think, you know, a lot of people don't realize that it takes like a lot of inner work to kind of express that in a physical way through a physical practice. So I would really just say, if you have any doubts, get them out of your mind. You can do it. You're gonna just feel so much better coming out the other side of it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Awesome, thank you. So the last thing, just if there's anything I didn't touch on or any thoughts that you had, anything you wanted to share.
Just that you guys are awesome, and I love you and Jen, and I hope whoever watches this, I hope that it helped maybe persuade you some positive propaganda for our Three Sisters yoga class. But it's really great, and like I would honestly recommend doing it to anyone, like anyone and everyone. I think it's a fantastic experience, and you'll learn so much about yourself.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Mercedes. Thank you for your positive propaganda. All right. I'm going to stop the recording now.